Welcome to Pax Albania on this wonderful Saturday morning here in Vishivanka. Many Ukrainian tourists cannot come. They cannot come to Tirana this year, despite in the past 10 years they really liked it, especially since the Euromaidan, since the turn to the west. Many Albanians discovered the Adriatic coast because Crimea was stolen from them by the Russian terrorist state. And then they discovered the Adriatic beauty of Albania, Montenegro, Croatia, and they are very welcome. And here the NATO allies on the Adriatic, they stand in solidarity with Ukraine, and they are 100% for the Ukrainians. You can be sure about that one. The NATO allies, the Adriatic allies, they are with Ukraine. They know, and the Kosovo as well, Macedonia, they know exactly how terrible Serbian, Russian terror aggression, genocidal violence, and all these horrors. They have seen it. They have seen it. They know how it feels, and they understand what the Ukrainians are going through. Again, I call the Ukrainians to recognize Kosovo because it was as a victim, same as Bosnia, of Serb aggression, also supported by Russia back in the 90s. And now it's happening the same. What the Ukrainians have to suffer now is what the Bosnians and Kosovo people had to suffer in the 90s under similar terrorist regime. And it is a bit of a problem that Ukraine is not recognizing Kosovo, and it's also not so supportive of Bosnia. There were statements like no Bosniaization and so on from the Ukrainian officials. Please, these are the products of our Western intervention. You want Western intervention in Ukraine, you want more weapons, more money, you want ultimately a no-fly zone, then you have to support our products of our NATO interventions in the Balkans. And Ukraine is a bit, bad advised in the Balkan politics and bad informed, and I try to change that, but it's not so easy. Here, of course, Ukraine is very welcome. That's very important. And also the solidarity is very clear. And they know what it is, a communist country. They have been under one of the worst ones. I show you here the bunker, and I show it for you for a reason. Because they here absolutely know what a disaster communism was. They don't want any of it back, and they know how the life in bunkers and in concentration camps is. And Albania, like most of the Balkans, very similar to Ukraine, were the kind of pressure zones between the big powers in the First and the Second World War and the Cold War. Let's never forget the tragic events of the Balkan Wars. This area and the whole belt from Ukraine to Moldova to here, they were the zones where the First World War and the Second World War and the Cold War was very much about. And we have now stabilized most of it, but it's important to be in NATO and to be in the EU, so there will be no concentration camps anymore, there will be freedom, no communism, no fascism, no Nazi ideology. All these things will be defeated by NATO and EU, and the horrors of the 20th century will be overcome, and that's so important. And I really can only say that we need to be much more united. And when you read about how Second World War, especially very much about Finland, Finnish independence, remember, broke away from Russia in the turmoil of the Russian Revolution, and now Finland is in NATO. I would call this not just historic, but it's an easy to be used word, historic. But if something is really historic, that's it. And Bulgaria is of course in NATO as well, and the Russian assisted asset who is called president there, a certain Radev, probably the Comintern successor of this Dimitrov, in my view. Yes, that's my view about Mr. Radev. He is the logical successor of this Russian Soviet Comintern president. I forgot the name, and I'm not so interested in the names of such communist agents. But the Radev I identified because I really don't like him. He has blocked Macedonia, he's my enemy, and I think that he is a terrible politician. He shouldn't be in the European Union, but hopefully he will be like Yanukovych in some Russian gated community under the supervision. Really, I'm upset with the Bulgarians. What I did for the Bulgarians so much in the times of the 90s, and what they do now for our friends in Macedonia and Albania, so little. Very annoying. But okay, the Russians are not sleeping. Finland and Bulgaria were decisive issues where the Second World War escalated in the second phase. and we should never forget that. There's now a big debate about the Ukrainians in the Second World War. Ambassador Melnik has defended Bulgaria. You know, now the communists and their communist ideology comes out in all directions, and they use everything against the Ukrainians. It's very shameful. It's very shameful to call Ukrainian fascists after all the things they have experienced. This is the will of Enver Hoxha. Let's not forget the horrors of communism and the complete disasters. And countries like this, they were squeezed between the two evil powers who divided up, and they were then starting the second phase of the Second World War because of the spoils, because of Finland, because of Bulgaria, because of Romania, because of the divisions of the belt, the fragile belt from Ukraine and the Balkans between the powers of that day. Now we have a different system. We have NATO and the EU based on equality, on freedom, on values, on respect, and on reasonable governance. That's a big achievement. We will not allow Putin to destroy it. He will crumble and he will fail because of him touching with violence the Ukrainians with no brutality, because they choose the West and they have a right to the West and they will be part of the West. Be 100% sure about it, also of NATO, but that will be part of our campaign. Now I'm going to the Ukraine, to the Free Ukraine Street, because I'm so happy that the Ukrainians, by the way, that's the Bloku. You have to, if you're young and you're interested, come here in the night. It's a kind of spectacular vista to see what's happening here during the evenings. It's a lot actually of nightlife and very big. It's too hot for me. I'm too old for that, but I really like it. And here I am going now to the Sky Tower. This is the Bloku second phase, and I tried to find am I in the right direction? That's the Ibrahim Rugova Street, by the way. I'm very happy to be in the Ibrahim Rugova Street. It's a very nice and beautiful street here in the center of the Bloku. And here, of course, there's one of these big skyrise buildings, and they are showing the beauty of this country. And yes, you are soon on video. I'm not sure the girls wanted to be on video with me, but that's another issue, not to be discussed here. But here I am, just around. Yeah, exactly. Here is the former Soviet embassy. I will approach the whole situation from that side, and that's basically where the Russians are occupying prime real estate in the town. And here's the Swiss embassy, just to be correct. First the Swiss and then the Russians. And that were the embassies the communists allowed outside of very restrained areas to be developed. And obviously a small country, a regional power like Russia, shouldn't have such a prime real estate in my view. And anyhow, we should de-recognize Russia, as you know my opinions about that one. But okay, the Austrian government doesn't like my opinions on that one. But what they have done here, and that's very courageous, and I came here to celebrate, you might remember, I was already in April here. They have done the Ukraine Elir, the Free Ukraine Street. That was very good. I was very happy about that one. And that is something very, very good. I'm very happy with the Ukrainian government with the Albanian government. By the way, have you seen the European flag carried into the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, yesterday? That was also kind of historic, yeah. Wow. I mean, Sweden and Finland in NATO, and the Ukrainian flag being carried that way into the Rada. I mean, we're making some progress. Slowly, and it's questionable why it's always war, which we need in order to do the reasonable thing. This is the Russian embassy here. MES in the center of town, prime real estate, should be somehow put on a mountain. They should be put in the Spach concentration camp as a museum. Next to it, designed Russian embassy. They brought so much evil to the world, and still doing it today. I don't know what is wrong fundamentally with their way of doing things, but it's brutal, it's terrible. It's a terrorist state now, and it always was. Remember what they did to Chechnya in Syria. many countries in Africa. Just recently, Ukraine, the Free Ukraine Street. This was very courageous, and since then I'm at peace with the center-left-wing government. They are pro-Ukrainian, so I love them. It's so simple. I'm so easy. It is clear. Here you see Ukraine flags everywhere. That makes me happy. Here, that means Free Ukraine, Liri. That's very good. And here, the Kosovo embassy, the Russian embassy with the Ukrainian flags ahead, and the street renamed. And then you see the Ukrainian embassy. I will show you the whole street, and I will make some photos, because I'm very happy that here in Tirana they have this beautiful, clear message for Russia that Albania stands with Ukraine, and they have renamed the name of the street. They have put the flags up. They have painted here in yellow and blue the road. They put it next to the Ukraine embassy and next to the Kosovo embassy. A clearer message there couldn't be, and I'm so happy that Albania stands with Ukraine. And I call for victory of Ukraine. I call for all Albanians to visit Ukraine once when the war is over, to visit and to celebrate. This is the next liberation war of Europe after Kosovo, and this is really, really very good. And I call on all Ukrainians to celebrate and to support the victory of Ukraine. And I call on all Ukrainians, after the victory is there and there's peace again and you can travel freely and it's again time for tourism, come to Albania, also to Montenegro, to Croatia. Visit only NATO allies. Don't visit Serbia. Don't make trade with Serbia. Trade with Albania. I was very much working together with Elvira. She passed away 3 years ago. She was a very good person from Ukraine. I want to devote this video as well to her personally, because she had this vision to do trade between Ukraine and Albania, and she loved it. She opened a trade office here. She was very, very, very good person. She was a refugee herself from Donetsk. She was the president of the Chamber of Commerce of Donetsk, and then she had to flee in 2014 when the Russians took over, and then she was interested to promote trade with the West. And she opened this Albanian-Ukrainian trade office. I met her in Ukraine, and that was wonderful. And then I started to print the Ukrainian-Albanian friendship pins. And there was this trade mission where also Mr. Shishikov came to Tirana in 2017 in April. I was here as well. It was wonderful. And that is something Elvira did really great. She later died. I'm not sure that she had probably cancer, I was told. I'm not sure what really happened. But nevertheless, it's dangerous when you are in such a refugee situation for your health, that's for sure. And whatever the impact was and the reasons. But she is a very good person. She was a very good person. I bless her and I devote this video to her. I miss her, and she was a great person. And all the Ukrainians who lost their life now, I know, when you see that other people are now in freedom and you have to fight, it's very hard. I understand that. But these fights often are very lonely. And that's very sad. But at least the Europeans and Americans could send more weapons and more money. That's the thing. And to show solidarity when you are a poor country like Albania or Kosovo, and to do the renaming of a street, I think that's a good thing to do. I also call in Austria to do the Boris Nemtsov Street. This could also be done here to piss off Putin. It's very good. And Boris Nemtsov Street could be the second thing. And then also in Pristina and in Skopje they could do Ukrainian Lir Street and then Boris Nemtsov squares. And yes, Putin killed Boris Nemtsov, let's never forget. And also that you devote efforts and place a refugee situation for Ukrainian journalists, as in Kosovo they do it, or for demining. That's all very good and that's very correct, and I'm very happy about that one. And I want to say thank you. I'm now, as Austrian in the Ukrainian dress, I can travel freely, live freely, because the Americans defended us and liberated us. Thanks a lot, America. That's why I call for all countries to join NATO, Ukraine as well, obviously, Kosovo as well, Bosnia, Austria. This is the history of our countries. We will all be part of the Russian world if America would not defend and liberate us. So I'm happy for that, and I want to say thanks a lot, and we will win all these confrontations with the horror regimes of the Russians, and that will be for sure the victory will be ours. Ukraine will be in EU, it will be in NATO, will have the euro. I'm absolutely confident this will be the victory. Thanks a lot for that. More to come from Pax Europiana here from the Free Ukraine Street in Tirana, and make many such streets in all Europe. Free Europe will win against Russian terror regime. Thanks a lot. Bye. Slava Ukraine.